Hello YouTube and hello Loretta and Finley. We are off trail this morning. We're out here near my west boundary because I wanted to show you what we're working on today. We won't be working on this west boundary, but we will be working on fencing. So welcome back to Wiki Up Knoll for another update. We're going to be working on my east boundary today, but I wanted to show you what we've been working on for a couple years. I've been patching the other three sides. My parcel is it's like a perfect square. This parcel is a 40-acre parcel, adjoins some other ones, and 3 of the 4 sides were fenced, but you can see this fence post is probably 100 years old, and some of the wire might not be much younger. It's grown into a cat claw that is old. And then there's new-ish. There's a T-post that somebody placed probably 30 years ago. It's rusted, but it's working and effective. And then this section here, when I moved here, this section was fully open for about 20 feet, and I placed in some new T-posts. I put in stays, I rewired things, and made it an effective fencing. We're fencing out the cattle. I live in an area that is considered free range for cattle. So if you have private property that you do not wish to have cattle grazing on, then you are obligated and obliged to fence it out. So that's what we do. We fence out the cattle, and this is how we do it. I'm going to be showing some of this process today. This fence was existing, like I said, and I've been patching in old fencing materials, used fencing materials when I can, to old fence. And I'm going to be doing the same thing on my east side. My east side along the public access road is not fenced, but we are putting up a cattle fence to keep them out of this particular parcel. So it's a new placement of a fence, but we are using old materials, just like the rest of the fence around the rest of the property. If I were to try to replace all this fencing, it would be very expensive, and I don't want to spend my money on that. So we're going to do it this way, and I will show you how we're doing it in today's video. I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. It is a beautiful day here. These guys are loving their trek off trail along the borders and boundaries, and I will catch up with you in a few when we are heading down to the other side of the property to work on some fencing. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch up soon. Okay, you can hear us rattling around in the truck. There's John. Hey, John.
Hey, good morning.
So next day we have the truck full of all sorts of stuff. Our batteries, our clippers, our pruners, our drill, everything we need for fencing. We'll show a little bit more of that when we get down here. Going to the east side, we are bound determined to run some wire today on that fence and keep the cows out. We've seen a couple in here. John had to chase some out the other day. They're pretty good. They just kind of like take your suggestion, which is nice. Even the bulls we have are fairly okay when it's not a certain season. So they're amenable to doing what we're doing. So we're going to be working on, I don't know if this video, if we'll get here or not, but we're going to be putting up our gate. You can see it right there. It goes on that post. And here is our stash, not so subtle, of rolls of used fencing wires. We're going to grab some of these wires, and then we're going to throw them in the back of the truck, which we have a bunch of other stuff, fencing stuff in. And then once we get that in there, we're going to go start fencing. So I'll show you some more about that when we get stopped in a few minutes. All right, we're on our way down to do some fencing, and we had to stop down here because we have a cattle guard down on this side of the property. Cattle guard, if you're not familiar, this is the fencing that keeps the cows out very well, and then it crosses a road. This is the road we live on, which I have showed before that I maintain, and there's a cattle guard over it so that you don't have to go through a gate or anything like that. The cows can't really go over this because it doesn't look stable to them. So we do. If you've never seen one, that's a cattle guard, and we're going to use it because we like to buy used fencing. Obviously, we've got used wire and used T-posts. These are very used on Facebook and different places we found them. We have a guy that we buy scrap metal and different used materials from, and this is from a batch of that. But some of them, when they're used, they get a little bent like this. You can see these are not straight, so when you go to hammer these into the ground, it's going to be kind of hard. So we're going to straighten them using the cattle guard. It's very handy. So John's going to show you how he does that, just to get a little, it's got a little curve in it. We're just going to stick it in like a wedge into the cattle guard. This one has a double curve, and then you just do like a lever and you lean on it and work out the curve, and you kind of, and then it's straight. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to straighten out these posts, and then we're going to go down and I'll be laying out posts, and we'll be doing some wire in our next section. I'll show you the handy tools we have for wiring these things, just not regular wire, and we'll get to that shortly. Okay, we are down here on the section where we stopped wiring. I have some sections, see this wire here, I've wired it to that pole, and then I run out right there. So I have to connect, just splice in a new wire. John's working on another section, so the fence is shaking. And then this second wire here, I've put it on, and I ran out up here. I ran out at this post. I wired it, connected it there, and then I ran out. So I'm going to make this long enough to get way over there to that other post, and I will show you how I do that. I get a hold of the wire like this, but I want to show you the end of it. This is used wire, like I said, and you can see the end of it. Somebody has taken and wrapped and made a little loop. So I see this a lot on my old fence, and so I'm duplicating it to make a patch, make a splice. So I'm going to do that. I've got a roll of wire right over there, and I'll show you close up how I get that done. Okay, so here's my roll of used wire. I do have gloves to use, but there's my gloves. But for this particular thing, I like to use my hands without gloves, because I can bend it better and feel it, and then I don't get stuck to the wire. This is not new wire, so the barbs are there, but they're not especially sharp if you're just careful and slow. So I'm going to unwind it like that, and then I'm going to take my end that already has a loop on it like that, and then I'm going to take, this is going to be like super complicated here. You're going to be super impressed with my genius. I'm going to take this, go through the loop, and then bend it over carefully. This is old wire, so sometimes it's old enough where it'll snap right there, so I don't bend it super tight. But then down here, I'm just going to take it and loop it back on itself. And this is where I like to not use gloves, because I don't get stuck in these gaps right there. So it already had a natural bend that was there from years ago, so I'm just working with that, and then I'm just going to try to bend this around one more time just to give it a little more oomph. And then that is that. Get it, use the barb, stick it around there like that, and we're good. So now my wire is extended, and I can go all the way to the next post with this roll of wire. Okay, before I go to the next post, I have to show you this. I promise I'm not going to get distracted today, but here we are. This, I think it's a praying mantis. Let me know, entomologists, in the comments. I believe it's a praying mantis. Isn't that cool? 'Tis the season. It's going to be coming out soon. Very exciting. I love seeing them. That's it. I'm not getting more distracted in this video like last fencing time. I'm going to connect this wire back there, make some more splices, and extend the wire, and I'll show you more as it comes up. All right, so I'm down here still fencing, making sections longer, and I have another line that I just spliced together here. So now I'm stretching this wire. We're not stretching it like with a lot of tension like a new fence would be, because we're putting stays in to tighten it as we go, and we like the look of the old stuff. If we were to refence the entire property of 110 acres and crisscross in the middle in sections, it would be a fortune, and we're not going to do that. So we're patching and we're making the new fence sections look like the old fence sections and using the same technique. So I've patched another thing, and then my line over here, there's some fence stays I've gathered. I have to keep the line on the outside of the fence. Is where we're the way we're fixing inside. We want our lines to run the nubby side of the T-post. We want them on this side of that, so when we connect it, I'll connect it from out here. But I've got my line stretched, and there is an existing mesquite tree that I've trimmed in the past. It's already growing back some. It'll be fine to grow here. It'll be another way to keep the cattle at bay. But we want to go behind here and then back out. So I kind of have to weave, doing this in places where we don't just have a clear cut fence line is a little challenging. And this is one of the challenges. So you have to think about that when you're fencing it. If you have a situation like this, I don't know. All fencing is unique and different. So I have to kind of weave this fence in this way and put it on the other side, and then I have to go over here and grab it. Hopefully you can see the shadows everywhere, and pull it back through to the outside. So it's like weaving. My fiber friends will know. In and out of the sections, and then I'll be connecting it here like this on this side. So those nubby things will help catch the barbs, and then I'll be tying it with a new piece of metal. So I'll show you that in a few minutes. All right, here's John. Hey. This is better to do with two people, this part of the process. I did that section while John was gone for a couple weeks, and I did it by myself. It took so much longer, but we've got, you can see the bottom line, hopefully. That's the one I just spliced, wove it in between the trees and the to the outside of the post, and we're gonna connect it. So he's kind of pulling it tight. It's not, like I said, we're not putting tension on this. You can see that. I'll show you how we add tension to it in a minute. But this is how we're going to connect it. I have this, I don't know if you know about this. This is I think it's a Beckart. It's a T-post clip. It looks like that. It's pretty cool. Found this by watching another YouTube channel, Two Rebels Off Grid. Thanks, Doug and Carrie. Best tool ever. So they come in this bucket. You order them. I think we got it from Tractor Supply, right? It's, yeah. So the second bucket. They don't sell them like on their own website. It's only through Tractor Supply, and our Tractor Supply doesn't stock them. You have to order it for store pickup, right? That's right. And so this is our second bucket we've gone through, and this is the shape of it. You put it over like this, and you can see I have one on top and one below the line there. Hold it tighter? No, that's perfect. No, that's perfect. I think that's good. So I've got it on there, and I just kind of hand squeezed it so it'll stay, because I've got one hand on the camera. And then this comes with a specific drill bit that fits your drill. It has the slot in it. It looks like a surprised face right there. How funny. But you put this on the piece, and then it slides in. So I'll show you that. I have to put my camera down, so I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, we're back. Thank goodness for tripod. So I've got my drill bit here. This is the clip, and you just slide the clip into the bit, and it has a little way it catches, and then you just pull the trigger, and there it is. And it's secure now on that. It's the greatest. Thank you, Doug and Carrie, for showing me this on your YouTube channel. And I've been using them like crazy. So if you're looking for an easy way to do wiring, old or new fencing, that's a great way to do it. And we're going to keep doing this, connecting wires, and then I will get to a point where I can show you the next step, which is making stays. And here's that thing again. It's a Beckart. Pretty awesome. Okay, I just was over there fencing where you just saw me. There's a truck. I have gathered my chainsaw and some clippers and my tripod because hands-free is great. And now, because I finished that section that we were just working on with the ties, I need to find stays to add some tension. And so you can see this plant in front of me. This is a yucca, and every year they bloom at least once. Very cool bloom. You can actually eat the flowers. The cows like to eat them, so if we keep the cows out, we can eat them, and we can also use the blooms. If you look in the background, there is a yucca beyond that that has some blooms, and there's 2 on that one. They're very nice and straight. They're strong. They last for years. So I'm gonna go cut those off and use them as fence stays over in the fencing. So I'll show you how that's done in just a minute. And then I'm gonna go use this stuff to cut those pieces down. Okay, I did video this, but there's the clippers. There's where I cut. There's the yucca. I videoed, but there was a minor malfunction because Sam came to join me. Hey, Sam. Hey, buddy. We did it, didn't we? So I had to knock the camera down, didn't I? Yeah, so we couldn't see what was happening. That's okay. You're a good boy, Sam said. So I got those cut. This is last year's bloom. What's cool is when I cut them, there's still seeds in these seed pods. They're pretty, aren't they? They make pretty, like a wreath. Come on, that's just pretty. I have to say it when I say it. But when I cut them, all the seeds fell out. That is a rabbit turd. That's Finley's favorite treat, apparently. And this is the yucca seed. So you can gather those up and plant more. And every year they'll bloom. But honestly, you don't have to plant them. They plant themselves, and then the birds can eat these. There's lots of places around the road where we can go, and let's see if any more shake out. I think I shook them all out when they fell. Along the roadsides here too, there's like right away, so it's like public spaces, and there's tons of them around, and they're such useful. They're very lightweight. They're about, that big around, and they're nice and straight. So I'm going to gather these up. I actually saw a couple more over there on the way that were older from a couple years back. So I'm going to gather those up, and then we're going to go over back to the fencing area where the truck's parked, and I will show you how I use these to create a little bit of tension in an old fence. Right, Sam? You gonna help me? He's a very good helper. Okay, this is a section of gully, like a little wash area. I found another type of thing I like to use as stays. This is a cat claw, which we've talked about before. They're kind of short-lived around here, shorter lived than the mesquite tree. That's a mesquite tree. The good thing about these cat claw, they can be a little invasive and annoying, and they always try to stab you. But when they do die, they grow pretty straight, and so when they die, they're nice straight pieces. So we're going to gather these pieces up as well. This is about 6 feet long, and I can trim anything I need to off of that. And then I'm going to go over, there is a mesquite tree in the wash, and there's a dead root right there. You can see it's very straight. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that and get it while I can, and I'll use it. It's connected to nothing right there. It's just an old dead piece. So I'm going to trim that off. Great way to prune the trees while we're at it and get usable pieces for our fencing at the same time. Okay, we're back at this one section that I'm ready to do stays. You can see the stays are already in that section. We're going to do this section, and then we're going to continue on. This is about, what do you say, like a 20 or 30 foot span? Yeah. About a 30 foot span. And we're going to do stays in here. I've gathered the yucca and the branches and different things. And I want to show you the stays. John's other fence, there's Sam again. This fence he put in with a professional. He helped the professional person come in with all new materials at one point several years ago now. And it has like really tight tension on it. It's a new fence. I think they're about 12 feet apart, the posts are. And this is how they do stays. in a modern fence, it keeps the barbed wire from opening where an animal, a big animal, can get through. He could go under it, but cows can't like pry open the wires because there's a stay in here and it's connected through to that. So we're recreating this the old school way, and we're doing it by using these wood pieces. So I'm going to show how we weave those in between the 4 fence lines, and then I'll show you more close up of how we wire that. Okay, so here's that section I just did. I have about a third of it left to go. I'm going to show you how I wire that in a few minutes, but I wanted to show you this too. This is a yucca from a couple years ago that we picked up. And if you leave them there like we did, this is last season, see how it's yellower and fresher? And the buds and seed pods finally go away. But the little woodpeckers also get to them. Isn't that cool? A little woodpecker was looking for lunch in there on those yuccas. But this is a few years old by the looks of it. It's still very strong, very straight, and it adds tension. So you saw how loose these 4 wires were. They're still pretty loose, but just already you can see it's more of a unit. It's also a visual barrier. This is about head high to the cows we have around here, so they can see it. They're not, you know, it's not just the barbs that's going to stop them. They'll see a barrier, they'll walk around it or along it until they find a break, and then they'll push through if it's not super sharp. So this is a visual barrier. It makes tension. I want to also mention I'm weaving just like summer camp craft project. I go behind, in front, behind, in front, and then the next one right next to that is the opposite: in front, behind, in front, behind. These will stay here. They'll be good in the wind. It's tighter. You can see it's already tighter, but I like to go on in here and wire them. Each one of these stays will be wired to the wire with new fencing wire. This is actually, the label fell off, so I can't show you. I have a pair of wire cutters and a spool of wire. It's just the wire you use for electric fencing. We use the same exact type of wire for our hot wire around our garden area. So this is all it is. It won't rust and rot in the elements. So that's what kind of wire it is. So I'll show you that when I put my camera down and I can use both hands. I'll show you how I twist it. And that is the last step of what we do when we are fencing. Okay, I'm kind of close up here so I can show you what I'm doing. I have my spool wire. I'm gonna just undo about a 1-foot-long section and cut it off with my wire cutters right there. And then this is way too much wire for this one section, but I like to have more and then trim it. So I've just got regular wire cutters. Put that in my pocket. It's good to wear overalls for this job. And then I start over top on one side, and I just wrap this around the barbed wire several times like that, and then I go behind it. And this one I took the wire over top, so the next side I'm going to go as tight as I can with my hand and go under, so it's over and under. It's almost like weaving again, and it just puts a little more tension. Everything to add just a teeny bit more tension. Get it around there a couple times. That's my extra wire. Now I'm going to trim it off right there, and I'll try to give you a close-up of what that looks like so you can see it. So there it is. It's wrapped around there pretty tight, over and under. So I'm gonna do that on every single section of this, and then I will be done with this section of fencing. Okay, so I'm gonna keep doing this. John's gonna join me. We're gonna keep extending the wire. Our goal this afternoon, actually this morning before lunch, is to get all the way down here to our tree gate that we've shown in other videos. John's been working on those posts off and on, trying to get them, you know, deep enough. You have to kind of give it a few days here and there when you're setting a post, and then after you set it, you need to put water in it and let it set up for a few days and get really strong. So he's working on that down there. This whole section of fencing is what we're going to be working on. We've laid out our extra wires. We've got all our tools out, and we're going to continue doing all the things I just showed you until we get to this gate. and then we'll stop and eat lunch and come on and keep going further. But you don't need to see all that right now, because I'm pretty sure you've got the gist of what we do for fencing. We're just showing you what we're doing. Here's where the gate's going to be. He got this post fully set. He actually took in some of our short T-posts that we had. Some of the used ones were too short, so he just hammered them in. People have cut them over time for who knows what reason. They're great for us. This soil is much softer down here under the tree and by the wash, so he's hammered these in, 2 of them, to kind of brace this a little better, because this whole fence line is going to come up. The one we're working on is going to attach to this post, and then there'll be a break for the gate, and then there'll be a break going across to the south to continue. So we're going to keep on keeping on. Thank you for joining us. Sam thanks you. Thanks, Sam, huh? All right. Sam thanks you. John's going to keep on with me, and I'm so glad you joined us again here at Wicked Up Knoll for another update. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on Sunday for what comes next.